All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, happy to be speaking with an individual who I've had on before, and always a pleasure to be talking to him. He's got a big fight going on May the 28th. XFC 44 is when that is taking place. We have Damonte Robinson and Tom O'Connor getting out there to test skills. And like I said, welcoming Tom on the show yet again. How are you doing there, man?
I'm doing great, thank you. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, always good to be able to chop it up with you a little bit. But first thing off here, I just kind of wanted to address the situation with the opponent switch there. Was this something you were able to, pretty seamlessly adapt to and everything like that? I mean, not necessarily a short notice change per se, but just any differences with switching the opponent in general?
Yeah, of course, a lot goes into the game plan and deciding what the fight's actually going to look out and play out like. So that, in that aspect, a lot had to go back to the drawing board. My coaches and team are really great for that. They're immediately jumping on footage. But other than that, for me as an athlete, not a lot changed at all. My whole goal is to fight the best in the world and be the best in the world. So that kind of just plays into being adaptable. I mean, right? And if there's any time to practice adaptability, it's in the middle of a world pandemic, right? So I think that this opponent change, quick change of direction and quick game plan switch, but my training all looks the same. I'm always just trying to become a better version of Tom O'Connor, implement my tools better, find better paths to finish my way. So not a lot changed in the aspect of what I was doing training wise, just a little bit in game plan.
Yeah, fair enough there, man. But I was kind of curious just because I'd seen a previous article where it was talking about how there was an emphasis on the strength and conditioning, and we talked about that a bit, but just, talking about how, in past fights, maybe it seemed like a situation whereby you could have improved on the conditioning and maybe felt you'd gassed out in some prior outings. Like the last fight there, how did you feel with everything? Like, did you really notice that cardiovascular difference when you were out there competing?
Yeah, I felt actually really good, and conditioning wise, I felt really good. I think like that's a big part of my game is I'm looking to kind of drown my opponent with pressure. So, and that's one thing that's so exciting about the upcoming matchup is neither of us are willing to back up, so we're going to meet in the middle. But as for my last fight, yeah, my conditioning felt really good. I felt like I could have maybe seized some opportunities a little bit better, a little bit sooner, being a little bit sharper and quicker on the trigger with some of my shots. But as for conditioning, I felt good. It was a long time coming because I was with the layoff and then not being able to get fights for a bit. And then, of course, in the middle of a pandemic, I wasn't sure when the next opportunity for the fight was. So it was awesome to be able to get back and feel the cage and be competing live again. And so that was awesome. So I think maybe that took a little bit more of kind of balancing out and getting used to than my conditioning. I felt really good energy system-wise in there. So yeah, I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, well, I mean, impressive that the cardio held up, just like you said, with the aforementioned time off kind of dynamic. But you were saying that maybe some of the, I guess, timing aspects were not quite where you wanted them to be. Do you feel like that issue will not be there quite as much just because, there's a much, shorter timeline between fights here?
Yeah, I think the turnover and being a part of this tournament is such an awesome opportunity for me, and being part of XFC such an awesome opportunity. And having this fight nice and quick, again, in such crazy times, to be able to put on another event, and now there might be fans, which is super exciting. So I think that my timing and everything will be better this time. Training in Canada is difficult right now with the lockdown and everything. So training has been a little bit different for me, but again, if we can't be adaptable, what can we be, right? So that is what human beings are. We're adaptable. So I'm just going to take that in, and more adversity means greater challenge for me to prove myself, and that's kind of what I'm all about. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I think this quick turnaround is going to help my timing and help everything.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about the adaptations and stuff like that. But it's such a great fight town you're in, Lethbridge, just, Progressive Fighting Academy and, CMC out there and stuff like that. But also getting in the good strength and conditioning work over at Hard Training there. So just really great stuff. And just it seems like you're still able to work with some of the usual suspects. But I imagine when you're working with guys like, Connor Derry, Colton Menzak, Tim Tamaki, maybe just like smaller groups, just different methodology in that regard, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it's really had to be dialed back, and we have a very small bubble that we can work with. But a lot of those guys, same thing with work and with the law right now, it makes it really difficult for a lot of those guys to be able to, and for me. So it's a lot more solo training on my own, making sure I'm doing the reps on the bag, making sure I'm doing my conditioning and strength work on my own, and then a lot of one-on-one with Brad this camp, my coach. So we've been getting the timing down on the pads really good, and it's been definitely a more focus on that, on one-on-one and solo work. But we do have a very small bubble that we can work with, and some of those guys really help me out to make sure I get those reps in. It's difficult. You got to be fight ready, and that is what it takes, is, hard rounds like that. So I'm glad to have those guys, but it has been definitely some adversity to train through. But again, everyone in the world is facing these challenges to some degree, and but everybody's circumstances are a little different. So definitely going into it with a positive mindset of just looking forward to the opportunity and overcoming an awesome challenge. And I want to make sure that every performance I put out now is better and greater than the last. So that's really my goal, is to go and put out an awesome performance, put out an awesome fight. And hopefully the camp I have here is going to show that.
Yeah, well, from what I can tell, just as an observer, it seems like there's the measurable improvements between fights. So good to hear there's that linear kind of desire to want to keep improving, but that seems to extend to even some of the non-physical aspects of what you're doing. Like, it seems like journaling has become more of a thing since the last time we talked, or maybe you're just talking about it more on social media and stuff like that, like daily stoic and whatnot. Like, how important has all that been?
Yeah, that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome to get good perspective changes and look at the world a little differently each time, and just keeping that strong mindset. I've always been such a fan of sports and athletics, and a lot of my heroes are athletes in other sports, in MMA, and it always comes down to that same thing, is like, what sets you apart from the others? Mentality, hard work and dedication, how much you put in, but the mentality is the big thing. And there's been lots of guys coming out right now, like David Goggins and all of these guys, that talk about mentality and having mental toughness, and you see that being represented by the Stoics centuries ago, So I really like the daily stoic especially, but also just, journaling. I've always done it, and it's always been, goal setting has always been a part of what I do, but I definitely have been more on it and more consistent with it as of late.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I journal a fair bit myself, so I was just thinking that was pretty tight to see you also endeavoring to do some of that yourself.
Yeah, it's amazing how much it helps, right? And like such a popular thing right now with talking about mental health, and everyone's doing a pandemic with exercise and that relation to mental health, that can be a very difficult thing for people to overcome. And just sometimes voicing your thoughts and your opinions and getting out of your head onto paper, it can be a really powerful tool, and I've advocated for it lots, but I definitely in this camp even felt it more so than ever. And yeah, I think any of those little tools that you can use to get that 1% better, especially in athletics, it makes a world of difference, but also just in daily life, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I get what you're saying in that regard. But yeah, just having guys around you like, Brad Wall and Lee Meehan, just wealths of information. And it seems like you just have that, voracious appetite for combat sports and just learning all the different nuances of martial arts. So I imagine that really bolsters the mental game as well.
Yeah, I always say this is like, we have like a little hidden gem here. Like the amount of, like you said, wealth of information, wealth of knowledge, and also they're all passionate about it too, right? That's what I think. A lot of being able to be a learner and observe and gain more knowledge, you have to be passionate about it to learn it. And all of those guys, Trevor Hardy, all the people that I'm surrounded with, I'm so blessed to have, because they're all passionate about it. They all want to learn it and teach it, and I can just be a sponge. So that's a really lucky scenario to be in a small place like this. And Canadian martial arts, right? We've always had a battle of proving, okay, Canadian, we're never in the mainstream talk. We got guys, of course, the greats that have done that, but I think there's a resurgence, and I'm excited to see where Canadian martial arts goes in the next 5 years, because I think it's going to be a big time for us.
Yeah, I feel the same kind of dynamic too there, man. It was kind of fun seeing XFC's official Twitter kind of talking about that too, just some of the international implications of it, just saying you're hailing from the harsh prairies and stuff like that there, so that's fun.
It was awesome. I love that title of that article. Right away, sent it to my dad. I'm like, okay, this is going to give me some points here. He'll probably immediately respond with, okay, well, you want to feel the harsh prairies, get out here and fence. I need some help.
Yeah, right.
I might have screwed myself there. Might be fencing this weekend for some extra reps.
That's fun, though. I mean, you mentioned your dad in there, and I've seen past articles where you've, outlined him as being like a hero you look up to among guys like, GSP and Muhammad Ali and things like that. Like, how enthusiastic is he to be following along with this MMA journey? I imagine the enthusiasm is pretty palpable on his end of things, too.
Yeah, he loves it. And, since I was little, it's been rugby and hockey and always in my corner, always supportive, always just loves watching and loves seeing me grow as an athlete and a person. But I think once I transitioned into MMA, same thing, it was exciting. And rugby, rugby, hockey, they're tough contact sports, but he doesn't particularly like to watch my fight live. He does more of the thing, like looking through the fingers too.
Yeah.
And then you got my sister, and they're, the ones hanging off the cage all excited. So the transition between those two, or the difference between those two is pretty funny to watch and fun, but always supportive and always such a good inspiration for me to just push my limits and always make sure I'm putting in the work to improve myself. And that's something that I've been blessed that they've instilled in me, is just, never stopping hard work and moving forward. Yeah,
absolutely. Indelible life lessons that'll, pay dividends for you for sure. But it seems like you're, very mindful of just, the different people that brought you to the dance and different stuff like that. Like, it seems like a guy like Thomas Harris is someone who you still give the shout outs to, just kind of getting you into the, kickboxing training there in Fort McLeod.
Yeah, I, as you know, I'm obsessed with martial arts, and now it's my entire life, my lifestyle. I wake up thinking about martial arts. I go to bed thinking about martial arts. I'm watching the UFCs every night. I'm watching every fight I can, just because I just love the sport. And even lately, how cool is it how the sport, it seems, has really just been in the past 5 years. Of course, the UFC blowing it up, but now there's all these organizations. It's really become a staple in the sports world, and that's super exciting to me. You got people with contracts to PFL and big tournaments like that happening. Things that XFC are doing now. There, a lot of different organizations creating a lot of opportunities for MMA athletes, and it's kind of got a solid foundation now to grow from, I think. And so I'm just excited to be a part of it, because I love the sport. And I've loved athletics my whole life. Like I've talked about before, is I always wanted to be a pro athlete. I just had no clue that it would be in martial arts. And I'm thankful I am now, because when I thank all those people that got me here, that's why, is because I feel this saved me, and it's now my passion and my life. So I'm thankful that I'm here.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey to follow so far, man, and many more chapters to be written for sure. But I wanted to talk about the specific opponent for this one here, because I spoke to Damonte Robinson just the other day actually, and he was pretty complimentary of your ability to push the pace and just being a game competitor. From I mean, you were saying before, the tape study more so something your coaches do, but just what you've been able to see with his approach, what are your thoughts on, I guess, some of his stylistic proclivities, or just general thoughts on his efforts as a fighter overall?
Yeah, I am excited. I'm really excited about this fight, because I feel like this is a fans fight. It's going to be, neither of us are willing to go backwards. That's the first thing I noticed right away, is he likes going forwards, and I'm the same way. I like to push the pace going forwards. And so that's going to be interesting to see how that works. And I think his athletic ability, you always can notice that. He's very strong, very athletic, fast, but also the little things he does in his grappling and his wrestling, he makes some really good decisions with just being very decisive in what he's doing. So and of course we know hesitation, that's a killer. If you hesitate, well, you've probably lost that move, right? There's already a step ahead of you. And that's something I think he does really well, is he doesn't hesitate. He's very decisive in what he's doing. He knows his pathway. for the steps he's going through. And so I'm excited to see how our grappling matches up and our stand-up matches up in just being able to push the pace. Both of us want to push the pace, but I want to see how the chess game allows us to do that. And I'm going to try and make sure I'm leading the dance. So lots of movement, trying to make sure I always throw in flashy techniques, but also staying very technical. So that's my game plan, is to be the hurricane of destruction that I know I can be, but make sure I'm leading the dance and not just running into things. And as for his ability, I think his plan is similar. Is he wants to try and right away lead the dance, and from there we'll see who comes out.
Yeah, I love that dynamic there and everything. I'm kind of wondering who the corner is going to be for this fight, though. And how many people you're allowed in the corner. I imagine with this being a pandemic fight, maybe like one corner, something like that. Like, what are the dynamics like as far as the seconds that you'll be having?
For me, I'll only have one, just because with travel and going, leaving the country and coming back, there's a lot of quarantine involved and testing involved. So and just the risk of when we come back, the cost that it can be if we are positive, these things. So I'm only going to have one corner, but I believe they can have two. And as right now, I know there can be some fans, so that's super exciting. I think, it'll be a different environment than the last venue, where I know it was maybe 15 or 25% capacity. It was very low capacity. Only, I think, each fighter, a few family and friends, and even that, I'm not entirely sure, but it definitely wasn't a packed house, to say that.
Yeah, for sure. The two people in the corner dynamic definitely makes sense, and cool to hear there's going to be, potential for people to be there and whatnot. So who's going to be the person in your corner there?
Brad Wall. He's coming down with me.
No, I figured, but I just thought to ask all the same. That's a great guy to have there for sure. I mean, we've been talking about the wealth of knowledge. I mean, anytime I see some of the old Muay Thai clips from Brad Wall on Instagram and stuff like that, I get all fired up. So, I mean, he's probably forgotten more about fighting than I know.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's funny actually you say that, because just the other day, I haven't gone through any old YouTube clips of Brad, but just the other day I was going through old YouTube clips of Iron Mike Zambides, flying through them, and then all of a sudden right across I pull up Brad's, and so I watch a bunch of Brad's fights, and then I watch some of Trevor's fights, and it was just so cool to see that and reminisce that. And yeah, it's amazing. We talked about it before, but just how small the world is. Pat Militek is the commentator for XFC, getting to meet those guys, and it's just, as I level up, I just appreciate it more and more, is how many great people are involved in the sport, from analysts to athletes to medics there's just so many cool people you'll meet in MMA.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I like about interviewing you, because we tend to get into talking about the fun communal aspects of the whole thing and just the interconnectivity of the whole thing, something I very much appreciate too. But I'm kind of curious about what the tune situation is looking like for this fight. It seemed like you were rocking some Royce to 5'9" last time out. I know you got a bit of love for KRS-One. What are we looking at for the music for this one?
Yeah, I always have Gun Harmonizing and by Royce to 5'9" as my main song. So if they can play that, I'll go with that, just because it gets me so hyped for the fight. And I just like the start and the intro, and he's just letting it go. And I'm a hip hop fan, so that's one of the heart of that album. I love that album. But I also got some Wu-Tang in there as an option. I got a little bit of The Roots. I have a Roots song in there as an option. Some Big Pun is in there as an option. So if they can't play my Royce to 5'9" song, there's some great tracks to get me hyped up, and hopefully to get the crowd into it. I'm trying to bring back, the best rap and hip hop that I can. And there's some great new artists as well, but yeah, I think I have a Kendrick Lamar song in there, so there we go.
Yeah, well, it seems like you're covered, all things considered. You got a few backup tunes there, no doubt. But always great getting to talk to you, man, and just really appreciate the insights ahead of this one. But just in being mindful of the rest of your schedule here, is there anything you'd maybe like to add as a parting thought as we're kind of wrapping up here, Tom?
No, just again, thank you to all the family and friends that support me. Thank you to all of my fans that support me. And, of course, Progressive Fighting Academy. We're not able to be open right now, but I cannot wait until everyone is vaccinated and we can all go back to training or we can go back to training. That's the big thing. I'm excited for that. Hard training, same thing. The gym there. I'm excited. I always love the support that I get from there, and the training that I do with Trevor there. Hard training. I always feel strong. I always feel like I'm conditioned well. So thankful to them. Frontline towing. They're always great with me, and I'm not the best driver, so it's always good to have a backup plan there with frontline towing. Other than that, that's it. That's all.
Well, I appreciate the time to reiterate, and going to be a great fight here. XFC 44 going down on May the 28th, and we've got a lightweight bout with Damonte Robinson and Tom O'Connor getting out there for their 155-pound tournament. And yeah, just always a fire-up, man, and just looking forward to peeping the fight here. You have a good rest of your day, man.
Yeah, you as well. Oh, I have one question before you go, though.
Fire away.
Who do you got for the main event in the UFC this weekend? Garbrandt or Font?
Oh, I love that. I usually don't get the questions coming my way. Pressed for a prediction here. I would probably say I'm leaning a bit towards Rob Font, actually. I feel like he's a certain level of momentum.
Yeah, if I had to go with one way with momentum, that is the way I was going. I think he's on a little bit of a spike right now, but I'm excited for that fight. Yeah, I had to throw in a quick question there, quick prediction. Had to ask. Yeah.
Oh no, I love it, man. Yeah, that's a fun fight and a lot of parody to it and everything like that. But this is a fun fight you have coming up here, and again, really looking forward to peeping that one, man. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you, Dylan. Have a great day. You as well.